Now, let's turn to our panel. Lots to talk about. A. Scott Bolden is a former Democratic chairman of the D.C. Democratic Party, now chairman of the National Bar Association's Political Action Committee. Sahil Kapoor is a political reporter at Bloomberg. Andre Bauer is a CNN political commentator and former lieutenant governor of South Carolina. And Amy Parnes is CNN's political analyst and senior political correspondent for The Hill. She also, I should say, co-authored the book Shattered Inside Hillary Clinton's Doomed Campaign. Okay. Whew, a lot of talk. Isn't it supposed to be a holiday week? What's happening?
Okay, One day after.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about first the whole notion of Obamacare. The president saying, well, we've effectively repealed Obamacare.
Right.
Okay, they did repeal the individual mandate, which is a big deal because it's for lots of reasons, but just in terms of the way that the operation, the Obamacare operation works, it's a moneymaker. Right. But there's still a lot of other things in place, regulations, pre-existing conditions, things like that. Having said all that, do you think that there's any chance that what the president said is going to happen, that they are going to take it up again in 2018 in an election year, the notion of repealing and replacing Obamacare?
Well, this is one of those things that Republicans never want to admit that they're giving up. It's been 7 years now. They've been, excuse me, they've been campaigning on this. They've been promising it, and it's not a tenable proposition to tell
Although Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, basically did admit they're not going to do it next
year. He came close. He said we're likely going to move on. I think he's just being a realist. If a 52 to 41 Republican Senate could not repeal and replace the ACA, how is a 51 to 49 Republican Senate with Doug Jones getting sworn in a few weeks going to do that? The president has said numerous times that Obamacare is gone, it's dead, it's repealed, that it's not accurate. You pointed out the individual mandate is gone. The CBO projects that millions of people are going to drop their coverage and premiums are going to go up in the coming years, about 10% per year in the next decade as a result of it. What's still in there is the subsidies to buy insurance, the Medicaid expansion, the regulations that allow young adults to stay on a parent's policy until 27, and most notably, the regulations on insurance companies that they cannot turn people away or discriminate for a pre-existing condition or charge higher. That's a huge deal. These things are still there, and Republicans have not found a way to get rid of them because they're popular.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that the Congress and the president likely will take up. Andre, I want to bring you in here because I talked to some conservative leaders about what they're hoping to see from the president in the next year. And I heard a lot of concern about the way that the White House and some Republicans in Congress are moving on immigration. Take a listen to this.
It sounded more like he was going to grant amnesty for people who've entered this country illegally, and that's a real concern.
I think it's pretty clear that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would like to lure him into making a deal.
Andre, is that what you're hearing from Republicans in South Carolina? A concern that the guy who, made Build a Wall famous is actually going to cut a deal? At least specifically for these dreamers, these young people who came to the United States illegally, to stay in the U.S. legally?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think there are many Republicans like myself that say, look, we have to have some type of borders. We want to continue to see the president move towards that. But I think there are other Republicans that aren't quite as firm in their thinking, and they would like to see, it's an emotional thing. They hate to see these folks that have been here for so long, and this is all they know, that taken away from them. But we also know whether it was Reagan, Clinton, for years we've continued to go ahead and say, oh, well, we ought to take care of these folks, and we continue to let all these folks come in illegally, but we really don't address that we need to do a better job of making it legal for people to get in, not making it so difficult for people that want to add to society, that want to be a part of our society, and want to really add something to it. We need to make it easier for those. When I was a member of the South Carolina Senate, there were multiple times I had hard-working business folks that were trying to do it the right way, continue to be turned down, and that is where the real rub is. And I think that's why you saw the president get more Latino votes than anybody ever thought he would, more than Romney, because he said, look, we need to reward the people doing it the right way, not penalize them, but we need to look and see what we're doing that allows so many to come over here illegally, and that's the real rub between the two different folks.
And Amy, I am hearing, and I'm sure you're hearing similar, that there is real work going on quietly behind the scenes on an immigration deal. One deal with Dreamers and border security that could potentially get not just the president's signature, but in order to get the president's signature, you would need Democrats on board because you're going to lose a lot of conservatives. You think that's really as viable as some people are saying?
I think maybe so, because what's happening is we're going into 2018. The midterm elections are coming up. Republicans are very aware of the fact that they need the Hispanic vote to support them in 2018 and beyond in 2020. And so I think they're going to do what they need to do to sort of, try to appeal to them, to give them a bit of a nod. This is a huge voting bloc that Democrats have obviously been working toward and have won support for, and Republicans desperately need. So I think what you are going to see is Republicans try to find a fix to this issue, and I think there's more and more support for it from what I'm hearing behind the scenes.
Okay, so Scott, immigration is just one of the things on the list. We showed it for a blip there before. If we can put it back up on the screen, potential bipartisan deals that could be cut in the coming year. Immigration, as I mentioned, lowering prescription drug prices. The president talks about that all the time, or did on the campaign trail. So do Democrats. Infrastructure reform, same thing. Do you think that this is possible? And from a Democratic perspective, do you think Democrats are going to, frankly, give the president a win at a time where they have felt that they have been emboldened and successful by saying no, Republicans claim obstructing, at every turn?
Well, the Democrats have never invited to the table. And of those three issues that you listed there as possible bipartisan support, I would imagine that infrastructure, because infrastructure means jobs, is the most viable. Now, immigration and DACA is also very viable. The reality is it's not so much from the Democrats giving the Republican a win or Donald Trump a win. The Democrats will claim a win also because they're not in the majority. And then they're looking at 2018 as well. And when 2018 comes, based on the displeasure with the president and his low polling numbers at like 33, 35%, the Democrats, with any win, are going to be emboldened and tell their story and hopefully take over the House and the Senate. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but that's how the Democratic thinking goes.
What, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, excuse me, when it comes to infrastructure, a prospect of bipartisanship always sounds good at the 10,000-foot level, but get to the 5,000 to 1,000-foot level, and differences emerge. Is it going to be public-private partnership? How is it going to be funded? You ask Republicans on Capitol Hill, and Dana, you know this. You ask them about infrastructure. They frown. They sometimes roll their eyes. They try to change the topic. They're not excited about this at all. And I think with the president's personal brand so toxic among Democrats, fewer than 10% support him, there's going to be a level of distrust that's going to make it difficult for party leaders to...
among Democrats, obviously, but Andre, not so much among the conservative base. He has really been catering to and appealing to the base all year, and I've talked to some Republicans who say he's going to use that capital with the base to make some deals across party lines this election year in 2018. Do you think that's something that could actually happen?
Look, he's delivered as well as any president I can remember in modern times. I mean, he's gotten everything he said he would do that was really important to the base has been done, and even moderates. The Democrats are going to have an opportunity next year, and I don't think they're going to want to give him any victories because he's already got so many. They're going to have to run against him, and after passing this tax bill, that was kind of the coup de grace. I mean, he went through and did things that are making people's lives better, and when there's more money in people's pockets next year, and they see that they've heard all this stuff about the tax bill, when they actually see they had more money, you're going to have a tough time convincing those moderate folks to go to the Democratic Party because they're going to actually see an improvement in their life. And so often government says they're going to do so much, but when you actually see results, those are hard to overcome. And the stock market's getting ready to hit 25,000. Again, even people that don't dabble in the stock market, people like my stepmother, who was a school teacher, her retirement account now is so wonderful that she's seeing a benefit from something that she really doesn't dabble in, and those results are going to be hard for the Democratic Party to overcome in seats that they have a chance to win.
Yeah, but Dana, the real problem is 60% plus of Americans, while that's a short-term fix on the tax piece, 60+% of Americans don't agree with what Donald Trump is doing. They believe that what he's doing with the country, his, quote, wins, are bad for the country, and that's Democrats and Republicans. And so I don't know how the Republicans claim victory in 2018 or even 2020 with those numbers juxtaposed to what the GOP says these are great accomplishments. They just don't match up, and I got to tell you, that it not matching up doesn't equivocate or doesn't isn't equal to winning those elections.
And Amy, let me bring you in for one final thought. I mean, this is really the crux of it, right? It's what people see on paper, what people see in statistics, and how people versus how people feel at home sitting around their kitchen table trying to make their budgets work.
Right, and I think Republicans are really banking on that. They're saying, okay, going into the spring, people will start feeling better about things. They'll see more money in their paychecks. The problem is that I think they need to go out and sell that because, as we just talked about, there are a lot of people who, if you look at the recent polls, people aren't really convinced about this. They have their doubts about the tax bill, and they know that it's temporary. They know that it was done, I think, for an election year and to kind of win some popularity for Republicans or some approval for Republicans. So I think this is something that I think Donald Trump, even though he's saying he doesn't need to sell it, I think he and Republicans are going to have to talk about it more going into 2018 and talk about why this is a good idea.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine
Lots
not
of
needing to sell anything, no matter how popular it is or isn't. Everyone, thank you so much for that discussion. And